I mean,
She wants to be Italian. I'm going to wear off on her.
well, I heard something in one of my devotions here recently, and it was talking about because the part that I'm doing right now is Proverbs, and it was talking about how you are the average of the 5 people you hang around most. That makes you kind of think about who you want to hang around with, right?
Yeah, I just got to move your pointer.
Yeah. So yes, so if I can, if you can rub off on me, I'll
We'll
be a
be
halfway.
fine.
I'll be a halfway
We'll be
decent,
happy. Yeah,
and I'll be smart.
Boy, you led into another thing too. So, just don't let me forget about Arrested Development. Okay, that sort of goes into like rubbing off on each other, and then that's a whole other thing. But so today's 9/11.
Yes. Been thinking about it all day.
Where were you?
I was at work, and we had somebody had come up and said that there had been a plane had gone into one of the buildings in New York or whatever. So they brought up a spare TV and stuff, and we were watching. And I remember saying to myself, this is a terrorist attack. I mean, it just automatically made me, I said, this is not an accident. This is a terrorist attack. And people were looking at me then, but and then all of us were in shock.
Oh, I had retired. And it was 2001, right?
So you were in New York then?
I was in upstate New York, in the suburb of Schenectady, on the western part, in a town called Rotterdam. Okay. And I was outside early. The kids had gone to school. I was outside early. I don't know, doing gardening or something or whatever. And we had an outside sink. And I was washing my hands. And I heard a plane. And I looked up. And north would have been in that direction. Okay, because I was facing south. I'm kind of anal like that. Our houses are always facing, the front of the house is always north, always south, and the other one's. Anyway, so I looked up, and this plane coming from the east, and it took a 90-degree turn. I saw it take a 90-degree turn. It was early in the morning, 8-something. And then I puttered around, did some things, and I went in to take a shower. And I turned the radio on, WGY, which is the station up in Schenectady, General Electric originate. And I heard about the plane hitting the tower. So I got my husband out of his office, and we went up, turned the TV on, in time to watch the second plane hit the tower.
Yeah, that's what we got the TV in time to see.
And I get the chills because I looked at the path. I always said that I saw that plane turn. So planes have a certain path. They don't normally take a 90-degree turn. So I looked it up, and today, and American Airlines Flight 11. And I'm just going to let you, if you look it up, you'll see that path, and that turn is in upstate New York. And it's just a little west of Schenectady. And you can see that, okay? And I don't know how accurate this line is, but that yellow is Schenectady, and we were just on the outside of it. And I know I saw that plane because it was the right time, and it did the right thing. I mean, it turned. The right movement, not the right thing going into a tower. You understand because
No, I understand what you're saying.
You know exactly. And so I pulled this up today because I saw that plane. And the sad thing about, and here's a little research that people might want to look into. When events occur, that may affect a large mass of people, sometimes a large group of people feel that event coming. And 2001 was the year that my daughter and I had been in the car accident, and I was, I guess it was PTSD. I was suffering from that because I was angry. I wanted to strangle. So we had been going to a therapist. We started going to a therapist because our local priest didn't want to help us, so we went to a therapist. But the interesting thing about before this happened in 9/11, my daughter and I were both having horrible dreams. Dreams of something evil approaching or behind us and like hiding, but you could feel the presence of evil. And I mentioned this to the therapist. I know those of you who, if you listen to us, will say she's crazy. But there is some theory behind that, and you don't know. And if you're a person of faith, dreams, angels come to you in your dreams. They try to tell you things, and sometimes those things actually do happen, and they have happened in your life. And when I told the therapist, and she said that that is not unusual for worldwide people to have a common like thread in a dream of some foreboding thing coming.
That's
So
interesting.
that'd be something to look into. But I know my daughter and I don't know why we would get these dreams other than maybe we were just plain suffering and there was just more, you know what I mean, coming into it. But we had those dreams, and this therapist, as I said, was from upstate New York. And she had a waitress who she would talk to because this woman had some issues. And she swears that she saw two of those men in a restaurant that she was a waitress at with a computer and talking in a foreign language. And when she went to them, they quit talking. Now remember, this is all in the Northeast. It all occurred in the Northeast, and who knows anything about anything. But people they had to be someplace, folks. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, anybody
have to
could
be
have ran into
someplace-
them and just didn't know it at the time.
Didn't know it. And I'll tell you, I was a part-time teacher because they had, I retired and they hired me because they needed somebody. And right after that, they had the anthrax. Remember the dust, the anthrax was, and I had a young man in my classroom, and I saw him in the hallway, and he is pretending he's throwing anthrax around. And he's saying, it's my people who did it to you. And because I'm from Egypt. Now, he was not a very nice kid. And I called home and I tried to talk to the father. The father was home.
I'm sure that did not go over well at the time.
No. And I turned him in. But by Christmas, he was gone. He was out of the area. He moved. They left.
Well, you
They
think
got to
about,
be someplace.
Well, when you think about though, I mean, you remember how everybody was suspicious of anybody then from that region and stuff. I mean, but I feel like you had to be at that point. I mean, I think it would make you that way.
And you don't know. I mean, we are in this little community here that on a good week we might have 13,000 population in the whole county.
In the whole county.
In the whole county. Okay, county. It's a large county too, by the way. But where would you come to hide? Do you want to go hide in a population that has a law enforcement all around? Or do you want to hide someplace where no one's going to actually look for you? You know, you have to think about that. And even if you live in a large city and you try to be cautious, I've had people say, oh, it's not going to happen here. Well, it's got to happen someplace. You know, when you look at things, it happens if you are not cautious and sense your surroundings, then you're a sitting duck.
But and you're a New Yorker, I am not. I look at it this way. In New York, nobody's really paying attention to what somebody else is doing. Because it's such a big city. It's
In the
like,
city, yeah, in the city, yes.
no,
in the
in
city.
the local, I mean, in the outer area. Yeah, I know I'm shedding.
Yep, that's okay.
It's,
In the rural areas, you would be.
but if these people were in the cities and stuff, and
Oh yeah, I mean,
you wouldn't notice if somebody had a cup of coffee, or I mean, after the fact, maybe.
After the fact, it's just.
But
you have no way of knowing.
No, because I mean, when I went up there we went up there after 9/11 to visit. I took one of those trips, and of course, at that time, they had not built the new
Tower. The memorial was not there.
They were working on it, I think, but I don't think it was totally like finished at that point. But anyway, even at that point and stuff, I mean, nobody was really, I guess, paying attention. We were paying attention because we were country people going to a city, and we were looking and what. But I mean, people were just there. I mean, they were just living. It was just different. I don't know. It's really changed life, though.
Well, I think in our attitude,
but you have to. I mean,
think about how long ago that was. There's a lot of little guys that will never know. It's sort of like December 7th in Pearl Harbor. You never want to forget that, and you never want to forget 9/11, because we're talking. I mean, Pearl Harbor, they hit the harbor with the naval vessels, but 9/11. These were not military. These are just people going to work, just doing their thing, and.
But it affected.
Oh my gosh!
So many people.
Yes, it was a spider web of that. Now, I know somebody went to visit the Pennsylvania Memorial.
Haven't been there yet.
I would really love to go there. What courageous people. That's sacred ground in my book. That to have the courage to say, we're not going to let this happen. We are not going to let this happen.
Like you said, and then when they read the names every year, there's so many names. And like you said, there's some people that, I mean, some kids were so little. Some people were pregnant with people, they just never knew. I mean, and then the young people that will never understand what it is because, I mean, that changed what we do on planes.
Oh, yeah, extremely, yes.
It changed how we do some banking things. I mean, the Patriot.
Oh,
and the Patriot Act and stuff.
Yeah, and getting your
ID and it's just changed a lot.
It has changed because we were behind in observing, assessing, and we observed, we assessed, and reacted to make our country a safer place for all of us. So we had to institute a lot of things to keep us safe.
And did some people, thought it might be extreme, but I think at that point, you almost have to go extreme and then lighten up, as opposed to just letting it go. And then, because at this point, you kind of just had to lock things down because you didn't know what was happening.
That's right.
Where it was going to come from next or what was going. So it was like, no. I think decisions had to be.
You have to think of it this way.
I don't know. There's still so many questions about that day.
If you have a child, is it easier to be strict and then back off?
It is.
It is.
And I've heard that about teachers too.
It's exactly
easier for a teacher to come in, toe the line. I mean, draw lines in the sand.
This is what you're going to do,
and I expect nothing else. And then,
then once they understand that, oh, she means business, we're all good.
But yeah.
So yes, we had to. We had to do that to keep us safe, and it didn't matter. I don't care who you are. I really don't. You know, there are terrorists all over. There,
Well, they have sales everywhere. I mean, there's
yeah,
terrorist
they
sales
do.
everywhere.
Yeah,
And the sad part is there are Americans in these sales, in some of them.
I can't wait until you get Starlink. I really pray that you get Starlink. There's a show on, and it's called The Hunters. And we just happened on it. And it's Prime Video. Al Pacino's stars, and it's quite a cast. And it's about the Jews, and Al Pacino plays a Jew that came from the concentration camps. And it's around the 1977's era. They have some flashbacks. And there's a core. The whole thing starts because they are hunters of modern day Nazis. And I'm sure that there are some people who are going to say, but it is an enlightening program.
Well, I would
Very
say
good.
people are blind if they and if they do not think things are happening in America in the shadows.
Absolutely.
I mean, good, bad, and indifferent. I mean,
Absolutely.
because there are people that are infiltrating our country.
Why do you think they want to come here? How many was it last month that made it across the border? 90,000? Now, I have no problem if, and
Legally.
you and, yeah, legally, and you and I both know that we probably have some of those who cross the border here in the county,
Probably.
And they're good workers as far as,
Nice people.
nice people, love them, right? If they want to participate in a program, do we want a background check? We do. In that way,
Well, anything that we require of our own citizens,
we got to require
of
them.
anybody else.
Exactly.
And if you cannot meet the criteria, just like paying your taxes, just like meeting the criteria to get Social Security or meeting the criteria, everything needs to go through
the proper channels. Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing prejudiced about that. That is just the correct way to go, because that is the only way we can maintain authenticity, that we can maintain integrity. And so, no. I mean, you can't jump ahead in line.
No.
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. And
you shouldn't, and you shouldn't get through. I mean,
just because.
So, I mean, there are channels to go through. That's all we say.
That's right.
If I want to change my citizenship to another country, I would have channels that I would have to go through and hoops that I would have to jump through. So, no, we welcome.
My father came over on the boat.
That's what America is.
America is
a melting pot.
He went through Ellis Island. I'm a first generation. And I'll tell you something. And my mom was born here, but many of my aunt and uncles on her side were born in Italy. And they were so proud to be an American and in the United States that my parents, who spoke, my mom, fluent Italian and dialects, because there's, just like Southerners and Northerners, they have dialects. I don't know Southern Italian. Anyway.
Southern Italy.
Southern Italy, yeah. They go, Cicodia. That's down the line. Anyway. They never taught us. My parents didn't teach us Italian. I'm like, really? You're American. And that's what you speak. You speak English. Now, after
You
a
did
while,
learn some words, I'm sure.
we learned some words, yes.
Mhm.
And my cousin he learned. In fact, he majored in that in college, and he's very good in Italian, and he can write and read. My mom could write and read, but no, they were so happy to be here. You know that's it. You know, you're and you know
People do not understand though that the things that we're insisting on
it's
are
nothing big deal.
to protect our citizens as well.
That's right.
I mean, and that's not wrong.
Mm-mm.
I mean, don't you protect your home first before you go protect your neighbors? Don't you make sure that it's like, okay, if you saw something coming into the neighborhood, you'd make sure your kids and family were locked someplace before you'd go check on a neighbor. There's nothing wrong with that.
Taking care of your own backyard.
And that's what everybody's supposed to do. Now, yes, after we've made sure ours are good, then we go check on our neighbors, and we do. But you check yourself and make sure your people are good first. I don't feel like there's anything wrong with that.
I don't think so. I really don't.
So if you say that, and if you deem that prejudice, if you deem that racist, I'm sorry, I don't see that way. It's not
No.
to me. And so
We
if
don't
you-
expect anything more than we would expect of us.
No. Now there are times in our situation where it's like, I'm like, Bubba, I got it. Go check on so and so because I can handle this.
Yeah.
But it's because somebody's here handling it. But if there was nobody here, then we would want to make sure whatever we needed was taken care of. But
Yep.
no, I'm like, go ahead. Or vice versa. It's like, no, or Bubba will say, well, hey, I'm going to stay here, but you can run uptown and check on, anyway. But we make sure the first line is that because we need to make sure we're good. And I don't feel like, and that's all America is saying.
Yep.
That's all we're saying as Americans is like, protect us first, take care of us, then we can help other people. But don't be spending money on other people when you can't even feed and home
Oh
and
my
house
gosh.
the ones you have.
Do not get started on this because
Because that's
we could
another
spend
topic.
2 hours. Yes,
But 9/11 changed lives.
it changed lives. I mean, and I don't mind. I have a star driver's license.
I do too. But it costs. But this is
You have
another
to
one
do
of those
it.
changes.
And I have no problem because
Mm-mm.
I probably won't ever fly unless, they give us $1 million for a podcast and we got to go talk to somebody. But in the meantime, maybe you never know. So, yes.
But I'm willing to do some things to stay safe and to keep some freedoms. Now, sometimes freedom isn't free, and people do not understand that freedom has a price. And so if you want to be totally free on something, then you're giving up some rights of something else. So
that is Poli-Sci 101, exactly what it is. Because that is, in order to have this union of the United States, and funny that you should bring that up, because Sunday in our little community, we're celebrating the United States Constitution,
okay.
the Daughters of the American Revolution, and anybody's invited to go. It's at our courthouse at 3:45,
Okay.
and at 4 o'clock, we're all going to ring a bell for a minute, honoring the Constitution of the United States.
Well, I think that's wonderful.
And then a friend that goes to church with us, who's in the Historical Society, is going to say a prayer that George Washington said.
That's going to be exciting. And that'd be a good way to end this, won't it?
Yes.
Because we need
ring your bell for freedom and the Constitution.
And don't forget, and never forget 9/11.
Never.
Have a good day.